Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the mid-season premiere of Supernatural Nihilism. And the name is apt, because this is almost turned into a Seinfeldian joke at this point, that the show is almost about nothing anymore. They say that it's about certain things, and try and show you it's about certain things, but really, it's just nothing. It's like, God. And we go and we look through what is happening in these episodes and trying to see what's going wrong and trying to say these things, but it's like the kid trying to get at a light socket. You tell them that you shouldn't do it, but they just keep doing it. God, it... Oh. I will say that it was good in that we got Michael's motivations for it. The bad thing is we got Michael's motivations for what he is doing in this episode. Oh my god. Oh my god. So we start off and we see this whole scenario that is gone throughout the rest of the episode of Dean owning a bar with Pamela, who was this character that was in the 4th season, and she was a psychic. She was the one that got them on the trail of Castiel. She gazed upon his true form that burned out her eyes, and then later on, she's pivotal in like helping them do this kind of thing with the Reapers, where Sam and Dean had to be dead, and she got killed by demons. So it's like, the minute you see her, it's like, okay, well, the minute anything going on with Dean at this point, you're like, this isn't real. And they just keep doing stuff that kind of hammer that point home, how he's in a loop. He like owns a bar. He's waiting for Cass and Sam to come back from a ghoul thing in Wichita, and they get attacked by vampires. They kill him, and they just keep doing shots and shit. And it's like, okay, this isn't a waste of time. It could have been condensed down to, honestly, just the cold open. We didn't need to see anything else for it, but by God's sake, they're like, look at this. We don't need a montage for everything with that kind of scenario. Once is more than enough. Which doesn't really help out any of the other segments at all. Strangely enough, even if they were given more time. I know that the writers just don't really care at this point. They're going to do what they can do because they want their plot that way. So, we get that information. We get back to the part where, of course, Michael is gloating. Somehow had enough time to switch into his suit. Granted, that could be Archangel powers, but it's like, alright, fine. Gloating, blah, 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 just throwing people around, but somehow, someway, it's funny. He's gloating and doing his Thanos kind of shit at the end of the previous episode, and then Sam and Cass just fucking capture him like a Pokemon so fucking easily. They fucking Molotovs him. Sam Molotovs him, and then like Cass gets like angel handcuffs on him, and he's like, I'm a god kind of thing. I'm a super powerful motherfucking archangel. I'm gonna break these things. Proceeds not to break them. Because plot demands it. Plot demands it. It must be captured. But of course, the monster attacks are going on at this. The Maggie Apocalypse chick is now evidently upgraded to first officer, essentially coordinating the rest of the hunters and trying to deal with this, which actually turns into a whole lot of nothing as well, and that they just ride around doing nothing. I shit you not. Like, honestly, some of their stuff should have been more important. It really isn't. He's like, oh, the monsters are going everywhere. She's talking to Sam at a point where they're like, we kind of need to get out of here. And it's just, then of course, the monsters come in to try and get Michael out. And they're trying to figure out what to do. Sam calls upon the Reaper that Billy had on them, tailing them. But it's a new one named Violet. Sam is conversing with her while Jack and Cass are saying, like, who the hell are you talking to? It's like, okay, cool. Nobody else can see the Reapers. Fine. Trying to ask her, just like, Billy owes us a favor, get us out of here. She's like, nah, I can't really do that, da, 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 da. Then gets the thing like, boom. Okay, yeah, teleports him out. What the hell? Okay. So that's kind of doing its own thing. At first, I was thinking, who could have done that? Was that Billy? Could that have been Amara? Because a thing that I started thinking about while we were on the hiatus break is, I don't know what they did essentially with the whole connection that Dean had with Amara. I don't know if that was completely resolved. Granted, I've had to deal with so much crap that they just start throwing in and changing lore that I don't even know anymore. But Dean and Amara had a connection. Would she really kind of allow this? I mean, maybe she doesn't have the kind of protective nature that, like some kind of family member would, but Dean is the kind of one that, like, let her free and then she can roam around with God and kind of connect and all that. So you would think that could have had an effect. She could stomp down and come and just fucking shit on Michael, but that is the overarching problem of having Amara and God as characters in your universe. You have to work really hard to make sure why they don't intervene at all, at which point these writers haven't. They've essentially just ignored that problem for the moment, even though that kind of wraps back in to Michael's motivations. Well, they gotten teleported into the bunker. Like, okay, we gotta somehow fix this and everything. And, of course, Michael's doing his, I'm a villain. Nobody likes you, Jack. This is what he really feels about you. And I'm like, why would you believe anything this asshole says? I mean, you have to have some kind of, you even have to have a suspension of disbelief for the characters in the story to even have the plot make sense. It's like, okay, whatever. And I'm going, alright, Jack, you should know more about this, but they decide to use the Men of Letters machine to put Sam and Cass inside of Michael Dean's head. Now, of course, Jack had brought up using his angel powers, but Cass is like, no, that'll deplete your soul, and bad shit will happen. Granted, we've seen people without souls, and bad shit does happen. And that does factor in later into the episode, but we'll have to see if it goes, like, a couple of routes of, oh, okay, he does it, and he eventually gets to a point where it starts affecting him, and he gets fixed, or he does a big ol' bomb that uses up all of his soul, and he goes complete Sam without his soul kind of thing, and still gets fixed. Or they kill him. Whatever the writers demand. We'll have to see how it pans out. I've almost given up understanding or caring what's going on, because I'm like, you wasted his potential. But we'll see if anything comes of it. So, they decide to go into that. They understand that Michael has now gotten the monsters on his trail, and of course Jack is going to be one of the sentries to handle that. But of course Maggie and her group of intrepid red shirts decide to try and head him off at the pass, which really just involves a van that's empty. One hunter goes into the woods and comes back out. Oh, I wonder if that'll factor in later. So, we get Sam and Cass inside of Dean's head, and it was kind of weird because it almost looked like the nothingness kind of thing going on with where the angels go, but they see that Dean's got all this trauma and everything, and they Scooby-Doo it to, oh, okay, try and find it where, like, Dean is happy and content. He is a traumatized, fucked up dude. Try and find someplace that he's happy. That's where Michael would have put him, where he's contented. They get into the whole bar thing, and figuring out what's going on. Poughkeepsie, for some reason, completely jogs Dean's memory, even though that was kind of went back to Sam and Gadriel and that possession thing. But it worked. It was the Martha moment, and he figures it out. And then, of course, Michael pops up, and they start fighting because their mental projections are there, and Michael isn't strong enough to do any of his usual archangel powers. And Michael makes the claim that if they do eject him, that Dean will die. Honestly, at this point, it would probably be preferable at this point to just eject him and then try and find another host and like kill him or whatnot. I don't know. Evidently, this is taken as reason enough that it would work, even though we haven't seen any kind of completely life-shattering injuries that Dean has sustained while as Michael. That's usually the kind of way it works with demons. But then again, that only happens if you stick to lore when you stick to a continuity lore kind of line of reasoning. However, we do what the plot demands. So their great idea is to stick him in the freezer in Rocky's bar place in Dean's head that he made. With Dean uttering the line, hold please, I'm the cage. I'm like, really? That really just, I just couldn't even, it was bad. I'm like, nobody read this. I was like, what? But that's how that kind of resolves. We had also gotten Michael's motivations when he was talking to Cass. And you're like, oh, okay, he's going to finally tell us what's going on. And this has been before they went into his mind. But it essentially was Lucifer after Lucifer helped God defeat the darkness. Him and his Lucifer fought. He beat Lucifer. God didn't come back. There was nothing. So he has decided to go on the warpath and burn all the worlds that God has made until he gets to the one where God is and kill him. Now, granted, our Lucifer only got to the point of he wanted to destroy everything that was dear to his dad. Not go the full part of killing God, but he would have gotten there eventually. And I'm like, wow, you just made Michael into Lucifer. You're just changing shit. It's like, alright. And that he learned about God being a writer while being in Dean's head. And I'm like, the problem isn't really that this is a completely bad motivation. It's just, we've seen this motivation used before with other characters, and you're just tacking on the whole multiverse aspect and just changing the character ever so slightly name-wise, mainly because, honestly, Lucifer using monsters to do this kind of thing is a Lucifer kind of move. He would use demons, he would use humans, he would do anything he wanted to destroy everything and have it remade in how he would have liked it. And granted, this Archangel goes further and wants to just destroy everything and return it to nothing. Kind of going with the whole nihilism aspect, but it's like getting taught about nihilism by someone who took one philosophy class about nihilism. Everybody deserves better. The fans, the actors, I'm like, this is the best you could come up with? We've had people doing this before. We've seen this tree before. I've tripped on this rock before. What? But it at least is better than just him having no motivation, just I would actually prefer he's like, I'm just doing whatever the hell I want. Screw the consequences. If God wants to come stop me, let him. That would actually be better motivation because that would be kind of a little bit different. It's almost in the same vein as Lucifer, but Lucifer had more kind of concrete of I want to burn everything down, whereas that would just be I kind of just want to make a monster army and just kind of do what I want. But no, it's just, we're getting the same things changed ever so slightly. So, while they have finished up pretty much locking away Michael in the freezer in the bar, we get the whole kind of thing of Maggie and her guys come back. They're like, oh, we just headed them off. And, of course, the requisite hunter that was red-shirted and got turned into a monster, lets all the monsters in. He didn't lock it. Nobody noticed that. I didn't even notice if he was the last one in. But all the monsters come in. The red shirts start getting their asses beat. Maggie, as the new first officer, must stay alive for a little bit. And of course, Jack uses his soul a little bit to nuke the rest of the monsters in there. Everybody kind of comes back. And Cass admonishes Jack, just not saying that he's mad at him, but that he's seen what happens when you don't have a soul, and lingering shots on Jack to be like, what's going to happen? I'm like, whatever you guys demand. It's really weird, because I just feel this lost sense of tension. I'm not like, ooh, what's going to happen next? I'm like, okay, what are you going to do next? It's more of a morbid curiosity at this point. We also see Dean now kind of like psyching himself up and making sure that Michael is locked in the mental cage that he had instead tended for Dean. And then Billy shows up. He kind of like thanks her for the help out, but then she talks about his whole thing of notebooks of how all the ways that he dies, and all of them except one have changed to he loses control to Michael, and Michael destroys the whole world, except for one. And, of course, there's the other Avengers callback, referring to Doctor Strange using the time zone to look into a myriad of realities that Thanos pretty much wins in all of them, save for one. I'm like, okay. And she hands the notebook to Dean and says, handle that as you will. And Dean looks shocked and surprised, and we see that he's kind of building something or whatnot. And it just is what it is. I hope for improvement, but they just keep proving that they want to do what they want to do, and that they want the plot to follow how they want the plot to follow, and they will force characters to do anything out of character to service that plot, no matter if it's good or not. And it's annoying. So it'll be interesting to see how this crazy-ass train ends at the end of the season. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.